If you push yourself to do the same exact routine, wake up at 5 a.m., set a clock, at 1 p.m., 30 pages of the Quran, 10 p.m. Taraweeh, in Ramadan or any other time of the year, this is a huge mistake, especially if you're a busy person. So this includes people who are parents, as well as women on their cycle, pregnant, nursing, entrepreneurs, and students. Your life is never the same every single day. So why in the world are you expecting yourself to function like a robot? You're not a robot. This means whether you're energized or feel completely drained, you follow the same exact routine day in and day out. You forced yourself just to do it, and most likely you're gonna fall completely off after a few days. This is why it happens. And this is exactly why I don't like routines, but I love habits. Functioning this way can take away the sweetness and leave behind only the bitter taste of not wanting to do it anymore. This is a drama that your mind is not willing to deal with, and the habit that sets in is procrastination or reverting back to the old habit, like scrolling or watching TV all night. Why? Because you're a human being. You need to get relief from pressure. You are not a robot. I know we live in a digital age, but you ain't it. You either burn out or you feel guilty and don't want to keep up with it. If you don't know me already, I am someone who has been able to keep up with habits for as long as 14 years, which is journaling, tadabbur of the Quran, in which I go line by line for over 6 years. I have learned the key to consistency, especially as life challenges do not give you any stability. For me, it was surviving a top 10 engineering university, after that getting married, and then having a full-time job in which I was going in and out of the office, commute. Then I was like, I can't deal with this anymore, so I'm gonna go found a startup business. Whoa, was that 10 times harder? I had no life. I had no life at all. She wanted freedom, she got none of it, but she got a lot of experience, you guys. I had one kid, and then 11 months later, I got pregnant and suddenly had my second kid. And then we bought a house, which means more space, less time. Then I became a solo entrepreneur, and now I'm pregnant with my third one. And I have both kids at home and no daily support except for my husband. Life is wild, but I still keep up with all of my habits because I understand the trick. And I haven't seen a lot of people talking about self-improvement from a point of like complexity. When you're busy, how do you take care of that? Especially as a Muslim, 5 times a day you have to break for praying. Like even that is a job. So in this podcast, I'm gonna take you through the 3 key steps to make this month and any other time of the year productive without completely feeling drained for busy people. So let's jump right into it. Have you ever noticed how you feel super motivated as soon as you wake up, after you eat, after you have breakfast, but in the mid-afternoon, you are completely drained? This is because of a thing called willpower. And a major myth about it is that you can call it on demand. If you want it, it will come. Nope, this is the biggest lie, and I've had to read a lot of pages in order to understand this. Willpower is a limited resource. Think of it like a battery. For humans, this would be the calories or the food intake, right? That's where you're getting all of your power from, as well as the quality of sleep that you have. So in the morning, before the world demands more from you, this is going to be the key time, and a lot of scholars, high achievers, the Prophet ﷺ knew this, right? As soon as you wake up, or like at 3 a.m., it's 6 a.m. right now, I've been recording for 2 hours. That is when you have the most energy before the world comes at you. You know, once you master that level, there's also another trick, and that is throughout your day, your willpower is actually decreasing. So if you're making more decisions, especially if you're fasting, you're trying to be a good person, you're trying to be a better person, you're gonna have this thing called decision fatigue. So if you want to think about this in practical terms, it's like the wattage, okay? So if something is more difficult, you have to use more calories, you have to use more of your conscious mind, which means you lose more willpower. And as you use your conscious mind to be a better person, or to say no to X, Y, and Z, I'm not supposed to do this is haram, when you start doing that, this is technically why a lot of people who are like extremely religious, like, gotta watch out, because they've been using their willpower. They just started off, they're new to this, but after a few days, it's all gone. The relapse is real. So again, the same thing's happening. More calories because you've never done this before. You have to get over the learning curve, so now you're losing more willpower. So what happens by the end of the night? Willpower who? Willpower does not exist. You go on autopilot or you go back to your old habits, because let's be honest, the old habits you don't have to think about because they're coming from your subconscious mind, right? So it's more peaceful. You don't have to work so hard every single day and you relapse. So this is why you should have a high versus low energy habit action plan. And this is literally why I keep up with all of my habits, why I don't really relapse, because I understand how the human condition works. I am working from a human point of view, but a lot of us work from an ideal point of view, the way that society has taught us to operate. This ain't it. And if you want to know about how I was able to shift my mindset, I have a knowledge hub, which is actually my bestseller right now, in which I have over 100 resources, especially books that I have read, because that is one of my keystone habits. I read every single week. I don't go a week without reading. This is exactly why you should have a high versus low energy habit action plan. So a high energy action plan would be something that you do on a weekly basis. So this means under 6 times a week. And this is because it's something new. You have to overcome so many learning curves for it to be automatic for you. So this helps you not drain your willpower and not feel drained, because you're literally drained. You don't have any willpower to do the normal things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. It also doesn't have to be weekly. It could be monthly, anything periodic that's not daily. So one of the biggest habits, and I love it, that I started 2 years ago was that I would fast once every single month. So I did that for 24 months. Do you understand how that adds up? And especially this is a huge tip for a lot of women, because of period, nursing, pregnancy, this happens. And once this pregnancy is over, I'm going right back to it. It would take a lot of energy if it was daily or even weekly for me, because I'm not as big, because I'm not that big. I love working out. And then I'm just by default just more skinny. So for me, for my personal life, that's how I would go. Other people, once a week, twice a week, they keep up with that consistent habit so that Ramadan becomes a lot easier. So if this Ramadan or any other Ramadan is hard for you, I would really suggest picking up that one habit so that you can actually create that strength. This was literally the reason I started it, because I realized, because of like my childhood and like all the medical problems and all that stuff, that's why I had no strength when it came to fast. That's why Ramadan was so hard. So I had to train myself during the off season so that during the season, we are mastering it. Things do not happen automatically, so you have to plan strategically. Another thing that you can do is the day of the week, but another one that I really like is a time of the day. So ideally, if you do something early in the morning, like I'm doing this at 4 a.m. to 6, so that's why I love my morning routine, but I've always been this way, waking up early to study when I was in high school, and now waking up early in order to do this while the kids are asleep, because this house is about to be noisy. And especially before your responsibilities come in, before everybody's telling you do this, do that. When it comes to work, housework, all of the responsibilities that you have. But please do yourself a favor and never plan for 4 p.m. It is battlegrounds, okay? 4 p.m. is when you are healing from the battle wounds of the day. It's time to heal. It is time to relax. I made this mistake yesterday with the Quran. I have a daily habit of going through the Quran every single day, going line by line, word for word, just to figure out if I'm pronouncing the word right. So I'm going through it very delicately, okay? It takes a lot of willpower. I decided to do this at 4 p.m. The worst decision I ever made. Of course, it's because of life, and that happens sometimes. It happens sometimes, but it shouldn't be irregular. So having a high energy action plan is crucial if this is something that you've never done before, or if you know something that's going to drain you, like finishing the whole Quran, doing a high intensity workout, or studying something difficult, especially a difficult subject. If you're listening to everything that I'm saying and it sounds logical, but when you're thinking about implementing it into your day-to-day life, it sounds like a crazy idea, make sure to check out my Habit Systems bundle, which is fully customizable, especially for busy people. And my best seller right now is the Knowledge Hub, which has over 100 resources, especially in mental health as well as Islamic knowledge. That's not just like do's and don'ts, but like, why do we do it? What is our relationship with Allah? How can you make that mindset shift? I would also recommend the 60+ page guided habit planner, in which I show you step by step how to organize your busy life. And I have a 6 categories methodology so that you don't forget any part of yourself, because that's also another problem, right? Life is like a juggling act. If you miss one, the whole thing gonna fall off. So how can you be strategic and do it little by little? We also have limited time on earth, and no, that does not mean get into anxiety, because I have this thing that I call time anxiety, but that it's written, and I suggest instead of pushing through with exhaustion and compromising your health, to be strategic. I have learned the hard way, okay? And use your strongest moments wisely. What about those moments in which you feel completely wiped out? Should you just give up on all the idhadha, just like, forget it, not today? Or should you try to be better? Did you really think I was gonna say yes? Of course not, okay? But what would you do when you're tired? Because this really does happen. So I like to call this the low energy habit action plan. And this is what you would do if you only had 5 minutes. If you were sick in bed, what would you do? How would you proceed? And most people never think about this. This is a huge trap, and I'm currently going through that right now, in which my pregnancy is so harsh. Like, I have to be on medication and I have to pray 5 times a day, and I was losing it. Like, I was having literally a breakdown. And alhamdulillah, this was such a great teaching moment for me, because we really, especially those people who are perfectionists, it's not even perfectionism. It's like when everything has been going right the way that it should be, you get really used to it. Humanity loves routine, okay? That's just what we like. But Allah humbles you. In those moments, how are you supposed to act? So in this case, for me, I was reading all of this fiqh online, and it was not going well. Literally, it was one of those like cry for hours because like, how is this religion so hard? Like it was a bad day. But thankfully, because I have all of this knowledge and like how things work and how to process, especially when it comes to Sharia and fiqh and stuff like that, I was able to calm myself down and realize this was a nafsi problem, right? But also a challenge in iman, right? Like, who am I in relationship with Allah? Like, would he put this upon me? What was my position as a woman, right? As minorities, this oftentimes happens, right? One of the biggest things that it taught me is that I didn't understand the fiqh for sick people. And I was categorized as that according to this situation specifically, because my first 2 pregnancies were not hard at all, but this one suddenly was. So I had to learn all of the fiqh behind tayammum and how to do that, praying, sitting down, all of that stuff. And after a while, the ego kind of, subsided, and the nafs is like, no, I should have be this, shoulda, coulda, woulda, all of that stuff that the brain pulls up, and it stopped. So now I pray 5 times a day. Do I do tayammum? Do I pray sitting down? Oh yeah. I'm gonna take all my opportunities. What you talking about? So this is one of those things, right? How do I keep up with all my prayers when I'm sick, when I only have 5 minutes? What kind of wudu do I do? Do I do all of the sunnah ones, which is not the requirements, which is not wajib? So knowing all of that context, and this is why knowledge is so important. It's such an important thing that you know the differences. You have to tether yourself to knowledge in order to go about it. But most people never think this way. Their action plan is always ideal, the perfect standard that society has set up for them. A woman tries to be like a man tries to get all of the excuses and try to use all of the loopholes that women have. Like, we're always trying to copy and paste what other people are doing rather than sitting on our own lane. Now, the major problem with the perfectionist mindset is that you either go from 100% or 0%. What is the point of 30%? What's the point of even 60%? Do I detect indoctrination by the education system? If you got a B or a C, how did people react in your life when you were a kid? How did it make you feel about yourself? Don't ever assume that your past, especially 12 years of education and being in school, have no impact on you now, because our brain loves to make connections that are completely illogical. Just because it's standard in the school system does not mean that's how life functions. But unfortunately, and I see this often, the biggest hindrance to this and your ability to be better is going to be your mindset. The world impacts your beliefs, and that is the major trigger within your habit loop. It is the reason why you do what you do, as well as why you don't do what you do. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm a bad person. This is why I can't do it. This is why I'm not motivated. This is why I always want to be 100%. No, it's your mindset. There is beliefs that are actually trapping you. If you want to know more about how beliefs function and how they're manipulating your ability to be successful, make sure to check out my habit systems course. It's only 1 hour. I made sure to distill all of that information so that you can understand how your brain works. You're a logical human being, but society does not want you to think that way. It wants you to be stuck in fear and hopelessness so that you can be a consumer, so that you can be lower, okay? So in order to rise above it, you need to understand who you are and take full focus of who you are in the sense of how you act. You are the only person who is in charge of who you are. Like, there's nobody else in charge of you but you. Why aren't you mastering yourself? It's hard, but I teach you how to get over it. So one of the beliefs you might have is small is useless, small is weak. It's completely made up. This is a myth. This is something that society has taught us, has brainwashed us into thinking, and reading so many books as well as real data has taught me this. Small is big, and it is called the compound effect, especially when it comes to economics or finances. How do you get rich? By investing little amounts of money every single day. Small is good, small is powerful. So when you feel drained, switch to passive ibadah. So do something a little bit more gentle. Go gentle on yourself. So this might be, you want to read the Quran? No, you're going to listen to the Quran. You want to do tarawih? You want to do tahajjud? You can't do it? Make dhikr. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. While you're sitting, there's no conditions when it comes to dhikr, as well as making dua. If you want to read the Quran, you can't do it. Not today, not today. You need a break today. Read 1 line. 1 line. This way you are still spiritually engaged without forcing yourself to be something that is unattainable, unsustainable. And if you do that, then now you're going to have enough energy for the next day. So this is how you go about it if you're a busy person. And I don't hear anybody talking about this. And the last point is that I can guarantee you that this life is going to be hard, 100%. It's going to be hard. Life is hard. There's no way around it. And again, this is another brainwashing. But we don't even have that concept as Muslims. Isn't that interesting? Because this is all marketing and ads, and I love learning about history. Because the way ads work is that they show you things, they show you a product, and they tell you how this product is going to make your life easier. They show you that person who's happy and relaxed and stuff like that in order for you to buy. Because people who buy the feeling and not really the product, especially when there is a lot of competition. There's a lot of brands who are selling dish soap, right? How do you make that person pick your brand over the other one, okay? It's about how you make them feel about the product that they're using in order to make their life easier. But that doesn't really happen. In other aspects of your life, it's going going to be harder. For instance, if you have a machine that's doing all of the housework, guess what? Walking down the street is going to be very hard for you, okay? So your physical health and your mental health is getting impacted by these kind of products. So it's all interconnected. Life is never easy, but more importantly, Islamically, we don't have this concept. In Surah Balad and in other parts also, it talks about the path that is steep or ascending aqaba. Let me go through this real quick. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْأَقَبَةُ. What will make you realize what is attempting the challenging path? And it lists a bunch of habits: freeing a slave, giving food to the orphan, to the poor in distress, okay? And all of the above are what help you with faith and urging each other in perseverance and urging each other in compassion. So what I'm saying with this is that even the Quran here is literally telling you that there's a path to get out of the hardship. And most of the time, the biggest path is fighting against your nafs. All of these habits are a way of working against your nafs so that you can align yourself so that the steep path is not so hard. So there will be days in which you plan to do a lot, but you can't do it. You can barely manage the basics. But the nafs and the guilt is what kick in, and that is what is causing you so much mental headache. So imagine reaching the top of the ascending mountain, Aqaba. Some days you'll have a lot of energy and you'll walk for 20 minutes. Other days you just walk one step, okay? Or if you're building a house, some days 10 bricks, another day just one. But as long as you keep on building and going, the house will get completed. You will reach that point. So the goal is never to get to zero. That's the goal. Never the 100%. We're human beings. You can't be 100%. On top of never reaching zero, it should never be for a few days or a few months. Why? You never ever know the intrinsic value of the work that you do. That job of whether it's going to be 100% or not, and I have experienced this now. My life is extremely busy. I have other priorities, but I just read one line of the Quran a day when I do the tadabbur. The amount of value that I get from that is enormous. Or I'd read one page of a book that I'm reading, or I take 30 minutes to post a video on TikTok. Like, it just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. We don't know the outcome. We never know the outcome. The outcome is always up to Allah. He's the one who makes the way open. He expands and widens the heart and our souls and gives us a sustenance because of his generosity and mercy. And this is the description of Al-Basit, one of the 99 names of Allah. Stick around for the next video in which I talk about the mindset traps, the major reasons as to why you're not getting the life that you want, the du'as that you want answered. And this is going to be in detail. You know I don't do basic. But until next time, peace.